Kellyanne Conway is back, and she's got a brand new lie, and it's big. Take a look.
Sort of stupid and don't understand what the supply chain crisis is. I worked at that White House for 4 years. We never even heard of such a thing. There was no supply chain crisis.
I'm sorry. What? Oh no supply chain crisis. I mean, I was there for 4 years. I didn't see such a thing. Well, really? Did you miss the entirety of 2020? Were you just not paying attention? Did you just not notice any of that? The stuff that was happening, the stuff that had been missing? Because I don't know. I seem to remember seeing images like this come up. Like, empty shelves. Very, very strange. Kellyanne Conway, did you not see that? What about this? Did you not see that? Did you not see that's a picture from last year? Huh. And there's of course plenty more where that came from. Hey, did you just forget all that? Is that some selective memory going on there? Because again, that was kind of a big news. Big, lot of gigantic dominant story of 2020 is supply chain issues. In fact, I still can't get a PlayStation 5. So now this was, again, when Kellyanne Conway was working with Trump in the White House at the start of the pandemic. And by the way, the pandemic, what happened, of course, is that people got freaked out, understandably so, and then they started panic buying. So when people panic buy, you end up, of course, having shortages that, people were not, suppliers were not really prepared for. And so we ran out of things like toilet paper. No toilet paper. Remember the giant toilet paper shortage of 2020? Did you just kind of forget that? Did you just, did you, maybe you stocked up. I don't know, but there's a lot of people that couldn't wipe their ass. That happened under Trump. And again, there was rationing of other essentials as well, especially for medical professionals, things like PPE, right, to protect themselves. Because at that time, there was no vaccine, okay? And so they were relying on this personal protective equipment to try to prevent coming down with COVID while they were treating people with COVID. There were people literally fashioning their own stuff out of trash bags and tape. And so, but you just forgot all of that. All of that. It slipped your mind. Gone. Oh, nope. Don't know where it went. Oh, it's over there somewhere. Go get it. Oh, almost had it. Almost had it. Come on. Nobody is buying that at all. Jesus Christ. And look, during that time, I don't remember seeing one goddamn Republican making a comparison between us and Venezuela. Like they're doing right now. You go into right-wing pages, and they're all like, oh, Joe Biden's America, just like Venezuela. Look at the empty shelves. Really? Really? Again, that was also happening under Trump as a result of coronavirus. And they said nothing about Venezuela. Nothing, complete hypocrisy. But as soon as Biden gets sworn in, by the way, this is what communism looks like. Give me a fucking break. Now, of course, it was even worse. Things have gotten better now, but certainly are not great. We still have a supply crisis. We still have a pandemic on our hands, obviously, which is becoming far more. By the way, the people most affected now by COVID are people that have chosen not to vaccinate. So this is becoming much redder of a virus. More Republicans are dying from COVID. Gee, I wonder why. Oh, you know why? It's because the vaccinated people, see, we're out there giving the spike proteins and we're curiously not getting sick. It must be some sort of conspiracy. Shut the fuck up and use your brain for a goddamn second. Morons. Fucking idiots. All right. But look, getting back to the seriousness of course, the crisis that happened under the last administration that has continued under this administration as well. You had job losses at that time. That meant millions of people again, you didn't have stuff in the stores because of the panic buying. And then you had job losses with very little stimulus or no stimulus for some time. And then you had people that were forced to rely on food banks that were very quickly overwhelmed. Again, all of this began under the Trump administration. But no. But here's the thing, okay? It's not entirely the fault of the Trump administration. And I know, like, it seems like, well, wait a minute. Okay, it happened under them, and they made some pretty bad choices. But again, this is the pandemic. That pandemic is not over yet. And so understand that the supply chain is a pretty delicate thing. There's a lot of moving parts, so to speak. And so you had, for example, you get a country that does, more strict lockdowns that we happen to import stuff from. Well, they're not exporting very much. And so you've got supply chain issues. You also have, of course, the millions of deaths across the world. I think somewhere around 5 million, at least 4 million deaths over the entire world that I know of. Lockdowns, labor shortages, and now, of course, an increase in demand. America tends to think that we're actually done with this thing, even though we're not. And all of that comes together. Well, and that plays a role. And that has a major impact on the supply chain. All right, so now, that said, there are some other things as well. For example, in America, we had 4.3 million workers quit in August alone. Now, these are people that were working pretty shit jobs, warehouse workers, stockers, you had truck drivers. And the reason a lot of them quit is because, well, now you got a lot more, jobs opened up because during that pandemic, of course, you had over 700,000 people die. They died, and then you had more that quit their jobs, they'd be home with their kids, sometimes because they couldn't afford childcare. And so they're out of the market. You had people that ended up retiring, so they're out of the market. And so you got all these new jobs, these better paying jobs that had opened up. And then you have people that are in the labor force during the pandemic got treated like crap by their employers who, by the way, made billions of dollars in sales and revenue profits. They said, well, fuck this shit job. I'm going to go work somewhere else. I'm going to get one of those better ones that actually pays me better and treats me like a human being. And as a result, of course, warehouse workers, grocery store stockers, gas station attendants, et cetera, are in demand now, massively in demand. And of course, that has a big impact on the supply chain as well. And so, for example here, the American Trucking Association in 2019 had estimated that it would be short some 60,000 drivers. But those shortages have also increased due to retirements, and new truck drivers need to be trained due to COVID-19 closures. As well as, of course, the great resignation. I think that's what they're calling it. So, yeah, a lot of these different factors. So if you're trying to pin everything on Joe Biden, that's stupid. That's not factual. The same as if you're trying to pin all of this on Donald Trump. That's just not factual. Now, of course, there are things that you can blame each administration for, right? For example, the Trump administration for their very, very slow actions on trying to do something about the pandemic. Donald Trump himself downplayed the virus for months and months until it got so bad that he had to pay attention. And it got so bad and so widespread, and the damage was done. And we're going to be dealing with it for a very, very long time. Now, you could, of course, also point the finger at Biden for not increasing the material conditions of workers during this time, which also, as I mentioned, has a big impact on supply. And so, for example, back when there was a COVID bill that was getting pushed through reconciliation, that was the Biden plan. And you remember Kirsten Sinema were their classic thumbs down on the $15 minimum wage increase, which would have helped millions of workers. What he could have done was push members of his own party to get on board for worker protections. He also could have done the same thing, of course, during the Build Back Better trying to continue pushing that and keep in the worker protections. And the things like, for example, paid leave that was supposed to be 12 weeks, and other measures, the Medicare expansion, stuff that would have helped regular people, stuff that would have helped workers, stuff that would have helped a lot of people, millions of people. And so he didn't do that. He could have pushed Kyrsten Sinema, could have pushed Manchin. Again, he's the president of the United States. He has leverage, being that he is the president of the United States, literally. He could do it in or out of public. It doesn't matter. He has an entire array of carrots and sticks. He didn't use any of them on the $15 minimum wage, COVID bill, or, again, hasn't really used a lot of that in the Build Back Better plan. In fact, he's like, JoJo, that's what he calls Joe Manchin. I'm going to give you basically whatever you want. Here you go. We're going to strip out everything. And it's because he didn't care about that. So, again, all of that stuff would have helped workers. And that would be important as well, because then maybe we wouldn't have such a large worker shortage, which, again, it's not even a labor shortage per se. That's what they're calling it. But these are workers that are openly fighting back against the material conditions of the workplace, and workers and workplaces that exploited the hell out of them for decades and decades. And so all of this is why we have supply chain issues. Okay, again, it's not as simple as pointing as what Kellyanne Conway is doing and making up alternative facts and saying, well, it would never happen under us. It must be all Joe Biden's fault. Total and complete crap, as she is full of. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.